everybody, what's up? It is Robert, and I'm joined by now a partner at Advisory Works, Logan Wedgwood. How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother.
Mate, good to see you. How you feeling?
Good.
How's for starters, congrats. I don't think, for those who don't know, maybe give a quick insight. What does Advisory Works do, and how long you've been there in a quick little nutshell, because it's pretty rad, like young buck on the come up. I've been predicting, and I've been talking about the 3s and 4s are becoming the 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
The young bucks in 2020 are starting to get into the director roles, management roles.
Yeah.
It's happening, right? So give it,
Yeah.
and I'm so well done on starting to flip and get in the new 1s and 2s clubs.
The top piece, yeah.
It's dope. Go for it.
No, it's cool, man. Look, Advisory Works really exists to help businesses with business performance, Kiwi businesses. Mostly we have some clients in the States, Australia and things, but mainly Kiwi businesses. We help them with that good old piece execution, how to get stuff done in business, how to actually implement a strategy, that kind of thing.
High level business strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of our coaches and advisors, whichever badge you want to give it, we've all been entrepreneurs. We've failed, we've succeeded, we've had, great success, crushing lows, all of those kind of things. So when you're working with a business, the difference is with us, when you go, I'm making someone redundant, this is really hard, we get it.
Yeah.
And when you're going, man, we just had the biggest win ever, we get it. We actually have ridden that emotional journey. So my time with Advisory Works, I've been with the company about in 3.5 years-ish. Became partner end of last year, really only kind of told the market about that early this year. And it feels really good to have arrived there.
Yeah.
After all the work that I've been doing.
It's cool,
anyway,
Yeah. We're talking about it off here. It's like when you feel something's coming, when you can see it, and then you finally get it. It's like, it's not that you're climbing a corporate ladder to get to a specific piece, but it's that you've mentally earned the right to be there, and you're going through the strategy to play that out, and it's done in a way that it feels more earned when it's honest to the journey of it. Does that make sense? Like, like certain things like I've seen coming, but it's like, the classic will be, oh man, I'm mates with the CEO here, I'll introduce you, blah, blah. It's like, look, I don't want to introduce anyone to anything. When I earn my time to be there, then I will be there.
Yeah.
And so does it feel like that? Like it's kind of, because how old are you?
I turned 37 last week.
See, it's crazy. And it's cool. Like if there'd be the equivalent, so in the ecosystem, the business is dealing with pretty real shit. And obviously Simon, who I'm homies with and stuff as well, who runs it from batshit crazy, loose unit, but one of the smartest brains out. And I say this the other day, it's like, you're practitioners, you're not preachers.
Correct.
And there's a very big difference between like, I've studied this thing and I am going to preach about the thing that I've studied, or no, I've sold a company and made bank, and then I've had to let people go and I've failed and I've crushed. And obviously Simon's story is different and crazy as well. So let's rewind it back. You were born, and then what happened?
I made a lot of noise as a toddler. So I'm a drummer now. I play the drums.
Yeah, actually?
Yeah.
What type of music?
Anything.
Like, what's your favorite? What's your jam?
Literally anything, but rock, pop, whatever.
Are you in a band?
No, not anymore. I'm in business now. I was in a band when I was younger.
Hey, you can be in business and band. Technically, there's a whole music business. That's What was the name of your last band?
Last one, I was in a band called Titans, and
It's not a dumb name. It's pretty cool.
All right. We played Led Zeppelin-esque
rock
stuff. Yeah, big music. We never got out of the practice room. We were just mucking around.
But still, it was fun.
Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah. So I guess as a 2-year-old made a lot of noise, and then as a kid made a lot of noise, and then as an adult made a lot of noise.
At least you've stayed consistent.
Yeah.
What made you want to get into the world of advisory?
Oh man, I don't think anyone's ever actually asked me that.
Because I've done my research.
Yeah.
Or we're just talking shit.
We're just making shit up.
No, but like there's always a...
No, I did. I something clicked. It's probably how I would explain it. Something clicked. I did do an MBA, and I did feel that whole, you can't really just talk about the theory. You actually have to have given some stuff a crack to be able to sit at the table with another fellow business owner and actually understand what each other mean when you're going, I'm tight on cash this week. There's saying that when you've spent all of your salary, and then there's saying that when you're running a business, right? There's two different things. So I did the theory, and I explained it like I climbed to the top of this mountain, and then I got this new view. And then when I went back down the mountain, I landed on this treadmill of being in business and things, and I went, I'm bored with this treadmill.
Got it.
And my perspective had changed, but I wasn't sure how I could bring that perspective to what I did. So then it was actually, I went, okay, I'm taking some time out and having a look at that perspective. And I talked to my wife, who's awesome and supportive and things.
You have to say that.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely say that your wife is
Like
supportive.
I had to take some time out and go, who am I? All that kind of thing.
And what age was this? 32?
About 4 years ago.
Yeah, 33.
Yep. And she said, cool, go do it. And I was on holiday having a think about things, and Simon called me, and he had done some coaching with me with one of my businesses years earlier, and just said, hey, what are you up to? And I said, I'm like drunk by the pool, and he's like, me too. yeah. He's like, let's have lunch. And I was like, cool, let's have lunch. So we had lunch. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm rethinking that at the moment. He was like, come and join us. And I was like, that would actually sound awesome. So then we mucked around for a few months. And Dan, the guy that was, he was one of the consultants that was running the Auckland practice at that time, said, look, we just don't have any room for you at the moment. We don't have any clients for you at the moment. And I said, well, that's tough. I'm starting on Monday, so sort it out. So I turned up on Monday.
You told him that when you were starting?
I told him that.
That's got some balls, man.
Well, it was
shit.
It was what needed to happen, and I think
they probably respected it. They're like,
yeah,
he's in.
Yeah, I was all in. I said to them, I burned the boats. If you're familiar with that story, I just said, oh, you're not familiar? So
burn the boats.
Yeah, when the invaders went into, I think it was Spain, and they were like, well, if the guys know they can get back on the boats and head back to the comfort of their wife and children and stuff, then what's the desire for them to win?
Yeah.
And so what they would do is they were like, everybody on shore, and then they lit the boats on fire, the boats sank, and they're like, right, well, you've got to win so you can build new boats to get home.
Jeez.
And it's like, man, that's a way to back yourself. So that's how I look at business. It's like, it's
very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, it's prudent to have a plan B, but actually just put your energy into plan A and make it work.
So it reminds me of, I've seen it quite a bit where, it's going to sound really bad to say it, but stuff it. Young buck with daddy's black credit card. That's the 20-year-old that starts a startup. And he hasn't burned the boat.
No.
And there's something about bottom ground hustle that I've always thought, like, I think I'm mentally stronger when I know what I came from, that if I had 20 mil in the bank, or the safe fallback thing, nothing to say like against anyone whose parents have done well and blah, blah, blah. But there's something about when you know it's plan A or plan A, it's just like,
or plan A.
It's a level of like maniacal focus to execute that I don't think comes with, I mean, sports people get it, kind of like, it's not roulette red or black, but it's roulette red or red. Like, you have to do the thing. Do you think you forced that on yourself to get into that sort of mindset? How has, now that when you came into, you became, I guess, an advisor there at 33, which is super flipping young, right? Yeah. So what had you done? What were the scars that you had got to that point to be able to have the right to sit in the room? What had you done I mean, I kind of know what you've done with your different businesses and bits and pieces, but give a quick bit of context for those that are watching and listening. Because it's kind of crazy to be an advisor of a company like that at 33. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I mean, my background, I guess, so very quick, very far back. I come from a family that, with parents that loved me. My parents divorced, remarried. I've got 13 brothers and sisters. We did not have disposable income.
13 brothers and sisters?
13 brothers and sisters.
Well,
so
are you from Utah?
Yeah.
Oh, Mel's here. I don't care.
Hi, Mel.
I know we're live. Hi, Mel. I don't care who's on. We're saying hi to Mel. Hi, Mel.
So I grew up with 6 with my mum and my stepfather, and then my dad left, and then a decade later he came back. He'd started another family, so then I had another 6 siblings. That's
shit, I didn't know that.
Nah.
So 6, decade later, new 6.
Yeah.
Next minute, double.
Yeah. And then we had another one that didn't make it. So
Damn.
So I never had disposable money growing up. So I took a couple of jobs when I was in my teens, and they were, gas station work and stuff like that. And then I kind of fell into trade because my mum said you should get a good, safe job, so you should be in a trade. So I went into signwriting, and I had a go at that for a couple of years, working for other people. And then at like 20, I was like, nah, I want to do this for myself.
Yeah.
So
You bought the machine, right? You bought
the machine and had a crack. Failed miserably. First time round, no idea what I was doing.
Was it naive arrogance of you thinking that you could do it better because you'd seen it, but you didn't have a true respect for what it took to build?
Yeah, I didn't have a true respect for it.
How old are you? 20?
Yeah, and at 19. And
Yeah,
I
you don't know shit.
Nah, I didn't know shit. And I was fiercely independent as well. So I'm still that guy that hates people going, you need to do it like this. I'm like, no.
Out of stubbornness or out of arrogance or out of confidence?
All of the above. So
Ooh.
always back myself, but I should always slow down and listen to other people. Like, you learn that later. And so then it didn't work. So then I went back working for somebody else, and then I was like, I want to give it a go again. So I had a go again, and I did, and I ran that business for a few years. And then I branched out into other things and got interested in advertising and marketing and things.
Yeah.
So branched out into that, and I was still running other businesses on the side. So it eventually ended up with kind of a collection of side hustles, which is not that great because you don't put the focus in that you need.
Not all in on one, so you don't have depth.
Yeah, and then I just started investing in other ideas and tech startups and things, and we had some that flew and some that didn't. And
So you're almost advisory / investing in the late 20s.
Yeah.
And kind of dabbled wild. So you almost had like a group holding mentality, but then split across different verticals and different startups.
Well, I set a goal quite early on that I wanted to have a influenceable stake in 6 businesses. And when I got to 6, I had, I think, 4 startups and 2 decent businesses.
Yeah.
And God, did I make the mistake of setting that goal. And I was like, this is nuts. Like, I worked
Width, not depth.
all weekend. Yeah. And I was just frantic. And I went, okay, that one's not working, move it aside. That one's not working, move it aside.
Clear the deck.
Yeah. And that was kind of where the consulting thing came in quite well. So I still got a handful of companies that I'm involved with, but they're quite low touch for me. I do the strategy stuff, and I
go deep on the direction, then trust the captain.
Yeah, 100%. And that's probably the biggest lesson that you've got to learn if you're going to get into business, is you have to trust the people that you've brought on the journey to do their shit. It's
interesting, even in a 10-year period, it's 19 stuff you, I can do it myself. I know what's up, get steamrolled. All right, stuff it, learn some lessons, learn a bit, and then, this is kind of working, let's just go wider. Then you go wide, then you don't have depth, and then you get steamrolled that way. So once, then you're like, okay, let's breathe, reset, focus in, polish the jewel, go. So, and that's kind of a cool mix, because then you kind of get like C-suite thinking, but still in the mud and the dirt, fighting on the ground. Like, because I'm similar. I love the fight. Like, I love the, let's have a whiskey and whiteboard up, have a mega session, get some brain ideas, but I want to be scrappy in the mud to flipping midnight doing damage. Like, I flipping love it. So it's it's a lethal combo, because so many people, not that it's ivory tower thinking, but if you play the game of position for that power of title, it's beneath you to do the doing. Yeah. And I've seen quite a few people play that realm. It's like, cool, you got your title and you sit on boards, blah blah. But then there's those ones that scrap, like a Tony Falkenstein, scrappy. Like, but he's like board C-suite dude. But at the same time, he's like, no, let's get in and flip and go and shake the tree. So it's kind of, do you see that a lot with like different types of leaders and operators? And is it good or bad, or like?
I think the really good leaders in the businesses that I work with have a disposition of always being interested in what's going on, and that desire to roll their sleeves up. And that's not necessarily the best use of their time, but because that's how they think, they're kind of really across everything. And their team know that actually they are the type of person that will roll up their sleeve. Really, the team's going, can you not? can you let me just get on with it, because you're just getting in the way? But those leaders are really successful because they do roll up their sleeves. They will lead by example. Yeah. I think that's the thing. You've got like a Richie Porte who as an All Black is the first to get buried in the darkest places. Everybody will followed him to where they needed to go to, the darkest depths of themselves to get there because they knew that he would too. That's kind of what you want in a leader, when you've got the leader that sits back at fullback and barks orders and never makes any tackles.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't work.
I heard a story about Richie, and it was from a pretty reliable source. I haven't asked Richie this, but I don't know him personally, but this is the story I heard. So when they'd go away on tours and stuff, and everyone would have, All Blacks would always partner up in 2 people per room, except Richie. Richie had his own room, captain, whatever, right? And supposedly the head of security and Graham Henry were the only 2 people that knew this, but every night at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, when everyone was sleeping, he would get up and run 10Ks and then come back home, go to sleep, didn't even tell the team. And it came out after he had retired, and his mindset behind it was he wanted to know that when it came to game time, he had done an extra 70 kilometres or 100 kilometres more than anyone else, and he'd been first to get up in the morning, do the workout, then he'd done all the training stuff after. So it was for his own brain to know, if I'm going to lead this thing, I want to know that I am more
Working
prepared,
harder.
more resilient, more harder. It's like and I heard that, and I was like, no, I'll find out one day if it was true or not. But I can imagine.
Totally, I could see it.
I could see it like a leader like that going. So, in your experience so far, dealing with, I guess, CEOs and business leaders and stuff that are coming into the ecosystem, what's like the biggest stuff up that you see leaders make, and that you've seen leaders make at your time? And
failure to move into modern times and place the value on culture that you need to place on culture. That's probably what I see, what I trip across. I think people pay a lot of lip service to culture. They pay a lot of lip service to, you know, the behaviors that we expect of each other as teammates and things like that. Everybody says
collaboration.
The right things. Yeah, they say all the
together
stuff, but
yeah,
it's so important. All of us have been in a culture that's toxic. It's so hard to make that business hum when you've got a toxic culture. You can have technicians who are really good at what they do, leaders that know how to manage money, but really you've got to bring people on the journey.
Yeah,
that's and set really high expectations of each other, so that it's not about the leader going, you know, you guys need to work harder, crack the whip, I need my batch and my boat and things. It's more each other, developing a culture where you expect more of the person next to you, and you support each other and hold each other accountable to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And so many business owners let that bit languish, or they focus on, we need more sales and we need more this. It's
got to
focus on the culture.
So the 2 pits there, it feels like you're saying move to the modern times. Is that a thing around embracing new technologies to create efficiencies in business? Is that what you're kind of meaning by that bit? Or actually like moving with the times of the headspace of leadership to really practice what you preach? Got it.
Because technology is a tool.
Tactic,
it enables you to do what you want to do when you make the right choices in that regard. But technology is not a strategy. Really. It's an element.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Because technology is not. It's it's solid, because when you read the headlines of AI, big data, automation, chatbots, blah blah, many naive / weak / B player leaders are thinking, oh no, we integrate this and life gets better. But I kind of say it's, tech is a tactic.
Yeah,
it's not the strategy. Like tech is a tactic. Yes, we can help these little things, but is it the right? Yeah, that's interesting. And so it's actually the bravery of leadership to adapt to modern times to actually really preach what they preach. Yeah.
We've been at Advisory Works. We've been really big on the infinite game recently.
What is that?
Simon Sinek's latest book.
Oh, okay.
So he
is this the starts with not starts with why guy?
No. So it's his latest iteration.
Got it.
So Starts with Why was his first concept that he landed on circa 2009, I think it was.
Which was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, powerful concept. The infinite game is an advancement of that. Your why is really a backward-looking thing. I do what I do because I feel this way about these things that shaped me, right? That's how you discover what your why is. The infinite game is, what's my just cause? What's the thing that I'm trying to do in the future that is bigger than the little efforts that I'm putting in now? And you could take the example of solving homelessness, which the government has never done. So you can say that for 100 years they've failed to solve homelessness. So it's clearly not high on their agenda.
Got it.
So if you're somebody that wants to solve homelessness, that might be your just cause, in which case the shape of the business doesn't matter as long as the activities that you're doing are working towards solving that thing.
It's like Grant Dalton's will it make the boat go faster?
Yeah, which is kind of an always-on BHAG,
Yeah.
quite clever in that way. It's less finite.
Or Elon Musk's thing of like, I'm going to die on Mars.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's one of my favorites. And so the younger generations, and I hear a lot of business people, because CEOs and managing directors and things, they're in our 50s, 60s, and they genuinely want to learn and develop with the times, but they're talking about the millennials. Well, as you pointed out, that's me. I'm in a position of partner. That's not the generation we need to be focusing on now. You got 2 more generations, and these generations are embracing these concepts. And Simon Sinek is a real shining light for them. They're bringing these concepts into business, whether or not the leadership knows about it or likes it. So if you don't learn it and understand it and nurture the passion that these people are bringing into business, then their passion is just going to die at turning up at 8 and finishing at 5. And that's not going to drive the company.
No, because it's just, you're in the hamster wheel.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you feel? Obviously, you're probably a bit different because you're the young buck that came in and you've obviously been embraced and trusted and pulled in now, obviously, as partner of a pretty successful, bespoke, high-end consultancy business thing. Do you have other friends that are your similar ages that are going through similar things? Because I'd be struggling to think of many in my world that I'd know in different industries that would be your age that are moving to that level. It feels like a 45 to 50-year-old move. Oh. Like in your circle, do you have young bucks that are making the shift from 3 to 4s to 1s and 2s?
Yeah, I do. I've got mates going into GM and things. GM, and one of my business partners is driving a massive tech venture that's incredible success. There's like a common factor in them. All of them seem to have a disposition to wanting to make themselves better.
Got it.
So I've got friends that have great well-paying jobs and they're happy with what they're doing, and they've time for their families and things, which is really important. And so they've got kind of a good gig going. But then I've got handfuls of mates at my age who are just constantly inward looking, what do I need to do to be better? And it just seems to drive them faster towards those other opportunities.
Yeah. And creating their own luck.
And having a hack, That's the coolest thing about it. Like, there's not a lot of consequence. If you go really big and then fail badly, and a lot of people lose their jobs and you go bankrupt and all of those things, those are big consequences. But to have a hack at a startup, there's not a lot of big consequences. No. You might lose, one of my ventures, I lost $100,000. It hurt,
Punch in the
cry
face.
me a river.
Yeah.
But I learned more from that than pretty much anything else I've done. My MBA cost me $40,000 and I learned some good stuff, but nothing near what I learned from losing $100,000 on a business venture.
That's funny, because I wasn't smart enough. I didn't pass high school. I wasn't smart enough to get into university. So I never went to school. So I always had this thing where I totally agree with you, because I'm like, you do it, you literally learn in the real world, like, oh shit, this is where you stuffed up or not. But then I kind of get this, I get a bit bummed, because I'm like, man, if I was street smart plus book smart, I know I would have gone faster. So then you've gone book smart, and then you do the learning. Now you've learned this and you've learned that, which you've just realized it's more. I've just only done this. I'm like, fuck, I wish I could have. So it's kind of, but it is cool to validate that the real world experience of the practitionership is really better. And I think it's probably more respected from others if they know you've been there before as well.
Oh yeah, it makes the first conversations much easier.
Yeah. Instead of like, oh, here's this, all these crazy words at the end of my name, and here's all these different things. And it's like, yeah, but like, have you looked Steve in his eye and had to fire him, and he goes home, he's not paying the mortgage next month, and his wife's probably gonna leave him, or some shit real.
How do you handle talking to somebody that's stolen from you?
Eesh.
Like, you want awkward, right?
I've had that.
Yeah.
Dude, it was weird.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
And And there's so many examples. What happens when you crash the company car? You're trying to stay calm, and what happened? We're inside. You're going,
Yeah.
All of these scenarios, they just make for good conversation initially too, because a lot about talking business is just being human and being real and just talking business, and then you get down to problem solving later. Once you've got the context.
So if you were a leader in 2020 and you wanted to have a more, I guess, open or inclusive, if you wanted to have the true values of what's on paper integrated into your actual business, what are some steps that you'd give a young leader or a new leader to help genuinely do that, so there isn't such a disconnect between the perception and the reality of what's on paper in the actual business? How would they approach that?
My instinct to fire back at you straight away is curiosity. That's probably straight away. That's what jumped into my head, and I think, if you're somebody that's hungry for knowledge and, always, like I said about my mates that are doing really awesome in their various pursuits, the common thing is they are all constantly reading books about business. They're constantly talking to other people in business and just trying to absorb all that they can. I've got so many faults as a leader that I'm aware of, and then probably a whole heap more that I'm not aware of that I need to be constantly working on to become the leader that I could be, as opposed to being happy with the one that I am.
Got it. It's the strive for the constant curiosity, times self-awareness, time drive, times passion, times
It's probably a formula there.
No, but I know what you mean though. Yeah, because someone even said yesterday, I was talking to someone about, there was a CEO that we both know, and it was like, he's one of the greatest strategic minds I've seen, but idiotic with social common sense. And I was like, that's a really interesting dynamic to have, right? Like, so it's like the brain, but then just
makes everyone cry into the meeting.
Or just like, I don't know, but he's awkward in the flipping, the water cooler talking, flipping Karen from accounts feels weird. And I just, what a weird, but it's funny because then he probably's not even aware of it, right?
No.
And then who's going to say to CEOs, hey bro, like, dude, you're really smart, but you're kind of awkward with the people.
Yeah, so super high IQ, not low so high EQ.
How would you say the perfect mix would be for a leader between IQ, EQ, and I know that someone's talking about.
Well, there's some research that suggests that people respect leaders who are firstly honest to a fault, and then secondly competent. So you have to be competent. You can't be a bumbling fool. So there has to be a level of IQ there so that you can handle your shit.
Yeah.
But actually the EQ, honesty, being able to connect with human beings is the more powerful part. So I'm not particularly smart. I too failed high school. I got my MBA and did well, but
if you got your MBA, you're probably not dumb.
I don't know. I felt
you're probably not dumb.
Felt I winged it a few times, but
I know a guy.
Yeah. But I truly think it's EQ. Because is the magic key, because the greatest leaders that I know connect with their people and inspire them to get passionate about what the company's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And that works so much more powerfully than being able to say, I know what to do, here's what we're going to do, but I don't trust any of you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. A CEO buddy of mine, he's got a team of 50 or 60. And talking about it, and I was saying to him, I was like, man, like I have so much like empathy for you and your role, because I hadn't seen the implications of how to manage not people at scale, but like 50 different personalities and 50 different feelings and 50 different missions and 50 different things. And it's like the emotional bandwidth of it for a leader is so gnarly. And then if you extrapolate that, and all of a sudden you've got 1,000 employees and, friends that are ex-CEOs of telcos and they've had thousands and the rest of it's like, how do you scale care, as a leader? And
I have a client, 85 years old, super rich, 700 staff, no reason whatsoever to get to know his people. No reason whatsoever. He couldn't, he would have every right to not care at all.
Like, stuff you. Well, for starters, if he's 85 and he's still working with 700 staff, he clearly loves the shit.
Mate.
Right,
And
on fire.
I turned up to his business, and he. It's my favorite story about a leader where I just went, man, there's so much I can learn from you. Like, what are you paying me for?
Yeah. What was his buzz?
He walked around and gave me a tour of his workshop, and massive site. And so we were just walking through the car park, and a piece of rubbish is blowing along the car park. And he calls out one of his staff members standing over there in a high-vis vest and calls them by name and says, can you pick that up, please? I don't want rubbish blowing down the car park. We walk into the factory and he says hello and greets every single person by name, asks some of them, you know, how's your family, how's, you know, your wife, by name. Then we're going upstairs towards the office area. We're walking down the hallway. Another person comes past, hey, by name, how are you? Cool. Hey, the door handle on room 2 is a little bit loose. Can you tighten it up, please? Yeah, no worries. And everybody lit up when he said their name and greeted them. All of them knew without any question of a doubt that he wanted to maintain really high standards for his business so that it gave the right impression to his customers. And he did this through the whole tour without once hesitating or dropping a ball or forgetting a name or anything. And I was like, that is the way to walk a floor. Damn. And show that you care about your people and the standards that you want to hold your company to.
And then they know that mentally you're not slipping. It's like, no, he's seen the shit.
He's on it, man. He's right on it. And his place was spotless. You're talking about a factory, spotless. Nothing on the floors, nothing out of place. You walk into
genuine care.
Yeah, you walk into a lot of businesses that have racking, shelving, okay. And when I go into a business for the first time and I ask for them to give me a tour, the things that I'm looking for is, for example, on the racking systems, and you got pallets that are stacked. Is there stuff sitting on top of that pallet in the gap in the rack?
Ah.
Totally inefficient. What happens when you need to move that pallet? You have to move the shit, find another gap, put it in the gap, move the pallet.
Got it.
And so that tiny decision of lack of care ends up
extrapolates.
Having, ramifications across the efficiency of the entire warehouse.
But also as well, he wants to get into the weeds of the small stuff that matters. Like I was reading Magic Johnson's book or whatever, and he was talking about how it's one of his Starbucks, and he was doing a show and someone spilled a coffee, and he literally just grabbed a mop, started mopping up, and stuff's like, no, hey, you Magic Johnson. He's like, no, like I'm here to serve you. And
interesting language.
Yeah.
To serve.
I'm here to serve you.
Wow.
And I was like, that's pretty flipping powerful, man. Like, and it's that same thing of, you know, like I remember when I was young buck and I was working up at Mount Hutt Terrain Park crew, blah blah. It was May. Snow hadn't fully come yet, but a freak dump had sort of come, and they were running a cable, electrical line from the top of Mount Hutt all the way down to the base. We're talking about like 2 kilometers, like ditch, about flipping 3 feet deep, the whole way down. And we were going up to start getting the terrain park stuff set up, whatever. And Ross Lawrence was the mountain manager at the time, and he still works for NZ Ski down in Queenstown. He's the mountain manager there. And we get up at 7 and it like randomly dumped in May, which it shouldn't have, like about 20 centimeters of snow. And so we get up and they had to put this cabling on. And basically you've got a 3 foot deep ditch, 2 kilometers down. And we're like, shit, we're going to have to flip and dig this whole thing out. So, but no, we had, because they'd gone through and done it with the big grader or whatever, the digger, but they had the cabling and snow was on top of it. So we had to manually dig out 3 foot of snow the whole way down. We go to get up and we already see one truck park up there, and we're like, that's no way it's flipping Roscoe. There's no way. Like, he's the mountain manager. He should be doing all this stuff. And he'd literally parked up, walked to the top, and was starting to dig by himself solo at like 7 in the morning. Because he knew it already done. He'd gone up early because he wanted, and he stayed with us all day, like just because he knew it had to get done. And it was just this level of, and the whole time we're digging and we're sweating and shit, and he's just flipping, just going to town. It's like, he's the boss.
Yeah.
He beat us up here.
Yeah.
I'm like 18 or some shit, like getting paid, I don't know, $10 an hour, whatever.
Yeah.
And he is sweating with us in the flipping mud. And I always remember that. I mean, like he won't even remember. I remember it's 18 years ago now, or 15 years ago. And I was like, the leadership for someone like that to get into the weeds with you and you're flipping in the grunt, it just like, it said so much. And I've always had so much more respect for leaders when I see them getting dirty and not like
What an awesome leadership lesson, right?
Dude, it was such. But I need it. Next time I see him, I'm going to give him props for that because it's weird the little things that you do. Sometimes he probably won't even remember it, but it was a big thing.
I had one from a boss of mine. After I'd gone into business for myself the first time I failed, I took a job signwriting with a friend of my family's. He had his own company, and we did like graphics on all the cool cars. So you've got a '69 Mustang that you want to recreate the graphics of.
Right.
We did that kind of stuff. So it was cool. It was cool fun. One day we're sitting in the office, and the phone rings, and his customer goes, "Where are you?" And I watch him answer, and then I watch his face just go white.
Yep.
And not only was he supposed to be there, there was a whole job and a lot of preparation that he was supposed to have done to turn up with that he hadn't done. He had just completely dropped the ball. He went totally white.
This is a gong show, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're watching this play out, and because you can see the energy, you're like, oh shit.
So this is his response. Fuck.
On the phone?
Oh, on the phone. Literally, that's the first word out of his mouth. And then the next sentence was, fuck, again, I'm so sorry. I've stuffed up. I will make it right tomorrow.
Yep.
He could have spun a yarn.
Yep.
Told a story, kicked my ass and said, quick, get it done. We'll race down there and, knock it out. He could have made up a story. He could have done... There were a number of ways that he could have responded to that to manage the crisis and talk the customer down and all of that crap.
Just fronted it.
He just hardball fronted it. And I've never forgotten that. Because if that's not accountability, he never lost the client. The client went, mate, you've totally stuffed with my client. He's like, I know. And it's my bad.
Yeah.
I'll make it right. Whatever I have to do to make it right, I'll make it right. And that's what he did. And I've never forgotten that.
Yeah. And I've seen one play out the other way where the person in the middle stuffed up, and we were doing work for someone a few years ago, and the client that they're working for, they stuffed up in the middle, right? So basically, client at the top, crew in the middle, us on the ground. Middle stuffed up, like super bad, but they didn't have the bravery for that chat. So what did they do?
Blame the one down the bottom.
Yeah.
But
what they didn't realize is that my relationships aren't in the middle. My relationships are at the top.
Yeah.
So they do the yarn of like, guys stuffed up, blah, blah, blah. And then phone rings not too long later, and it's the top. And the top basically is like, yo, shit. And obviously I wasn't like directly involved, but crew were doing some shit, whatever. And then I just say, look, if you're having to ring me, for starters, we shouldn't be having a conversation commercially. But if you are, it's clearly that you've been told something that you probably don't think's quite right, and you're having to come down to figure it out. Like, yep. It's like, well, do you know me well enough to know that my relationships commercially, I'd never put someone above under the track for it. He's like, yeah. I was like, and clearly, if you're having to do this, you probably know what really happened. He's like, yeah, because you know my intent. I was like, yeah. All right, cool. And so it was a whole conversation that happened without having the conversation, because I don't care what it is. Like, you got to play the lame and play the game. But to that point, it's interesting seeing how leadership does when you're in the middle and you stuff up.
Yeah.
And I think, do you think you'll get better? Like, how do you think you've changed as a leader in the last 10 years?
My biggest light bulb moment happened in the last couple of months.
Really? Oh, sorry. Get close to you.
Sorry. My biggest light bulb moment happened in the last couple of months. There's a video. I can't remember the woman. Courageous Leadership or something is her book. Fierce Leadership or Fierce Conversations.
Is that Brene Brown?
No. But there's this quote that she takes from Carl Jung. I can't remember it verbatim, but it's something like, whether or not you confront the truth, it will reveal itself eventually anyway. So in your situation just then, if they had confronted the truth, it would have been much easier than it revealing itself again later anyway.
Well, I think they end up getting fired about not too long later. Yeah.
Right. So the truth was revealed, and then the consequences were different.
The type was, I think, time goes undefeated.
Yeah. So I learned that, and I'd been wrestling with when I had a couple of clients that each to their own were faced with quite tough decisions, like big time decisions, not small time decisions. and they're going, how do we make the right decision? And so the first question is, what's the truth? What's the actual truth of the situation? Not what's the story that we're telling ourselves to feel better. What is going to make it easier for the people that you have to tell about it? What's the actual truth? And once we know the truth, then the next question, I reckon, is what's the right thing to do? So if you uncover the truth, the real truth, and then ask yourself, what's the right thing to do? It's much easier to make the decision.
It's so simple. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Yeah, because, well, I think where that gets muddled and why those two things don't happen is it's called politics and ego.
Correct.
Which is still people in positions, not the truth.
Is the right thing to do really to make that person redundant, to make the numbers look better? Or is there actually a truthful reason why the numbers don't look so good? So if the numbers don't look good, why don't they look good? What's the truth?
Not what's the cover-up.
Yeah. Not who's the scapegoat, who's going to take the fall.
Yeah.
You know, what's the truthful situation? Maybe it's the CEO that needs to roll, not the people down the road, you know.
So life would be very easy if it was those two things. What is the truth and what's the right thing to do? Like I don't usually would say what's the truth, because you just kind of feel what's right, and then the question is like, what's the right thing? So I'm always usually at number two, because instinctually it's like, well, what's the truth here is, you know, blah, blah, blah. But in a big organization, it's definitely a lot tougher. There's politics and ego. How would you navigate those two things of what is the truth and what's the right thing to do when you're surrounded in a business that has ego or power or politics?
Data. So
non-emotive.
Yeah. So you and I.
Yeah.
Our default mode would be to follow our instincts because they've always served us well.
Yes.
But that means that we're blind to the fact that there might be a piece of information that would actually prove that what we believe to be the truth is not quite right. Might be close, but if by pulling out data and looking at the data, we might find a different answer. So, for example, many businesses will say, we need more sales. That's their solution.
Most businesses would say.
Most businesses.
Ben Rose founded the Growery, but revenue agency. But most people, they want growth. Yep.
We want more sales.
Yep.
Do you, or do you want more profit? Because that's two very different things.
Got it.
Or do you just need to hold on to your more profitable clients and develop them? So do you need new clients? Or do you just actually need to look after the accounts that you've already spent all that time winning better?
And get better margin.
Yeah. And so what is the data telling us? Oh, we're losing clients. So we're putting water in the bath and the plug's out. We're losing clients as fast as we're bringing them in. Well, then growth is not your problem. You know, retention's your problem. Equally, if you've got really, really good client relationships, but you're not growing, you've got to ask yourself whether you're doing the activities that you need to do in order to make the business grow. Are you actually going out there and creating opportunity, or are you pretty comfortable just cashing the check on your current clients?
Or just reactionary, ticking along?
Yeah.
And so this is some of your methodology with how you approach helping businesses? Yeah. It's the power of the right question, eh?
It's the power of the right question, and seeking the truth and saying what actually needs to be said. So I will say what needs to be said at the risk of getting fired, because that's
what needs to be said. Yeah,
if I leave it unsaid, the truth will reveal itself anyway.
Yeah.
I'll lose a job eventually.
Or you gain respect, but they hate you for the time because you've said the thing that... So how...
I've had clients ring me days later and thank me after storming out and, you know, throwing the toys and having a...
What would you know, young piece of shit, stuffed you. Oh, you've never...
But
still in diapers.
Who else in their team was going to say it? You know, the team who aren't safe to say what they really need to say, because then they lose their job. I don't care if I lose my job. I can get another client tomorrow.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, so I've had a couple of times where I've had leaders of CEOs of different businesses, one recently, that brought me in with their exec team. And it was basically kind of off Chatham House chat about just whatever. I come in, do my thing, whatever. But I got this real weird sense that the CEO, kind of acquaintance, I wouldn't say he's a homie, but acquaintance, didn't have the bravery, and it felt like I was the scapegoat to say what he was thinking to the team without him having to say it. And then I was like, is that genius move to throw me under the bus in front of them because they know I can do it? Or is that actually weak leadership because the CEO doesn't have bravery to have that chat himself to their exec team? Or is it an outside thing, very similar to yourself? If you're a consultant or advisory partner on the outside, they listen because it's not him. How many times do you deal with a leadership that is either not brave enough to say that thing, or they want you as a scapegoat, or like, because that's
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But there is value in having an outside perspective say what needs to be said, because in my own business, when I got Simon
Yes.
to come in and consult to us,
He did that.
I had already said what we needed to do like 10 times, and my team were kind of going, oh, we don't really know what to do. I'm like, this is what we need to do, but no one was listening because I was not displaying strong leadership skills and not clear communication.
Got it.
Simon came in, and I literally said to Simon, look, I think I know what we're doing, and this is what I think we should do, and I've said this, but they're not really hearing me. Maybe, can you just sense check that I'm right, because I'm starting to doubt myself. He came in and went, no, you're right, that's the right course of action. He said it, and all the team went, yeah, that's an awesome idea, let's do it. And I was like, fuck. But it worked, right? So there is a time.
Is it kind of like when your mum says like, don't, and you just don't listen, like, yeah, whatever, mum, yeah, so
Yeah.
all right, cool. And then like your mate or something says, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, actually.
It's totally that. It's totally that. But equally, your opportunity there
Yeah.
was to have a courageous conversation with your acquaintance.
Yes.
And say, mate, my observation is you had an opportunity to show courageous leadership and have a hard conversation that would have earned the respect of your team, and you missed that opportunity.
Well, the thing is, I was in and out, so I don't know if he had then done that before or after, so I don't know the context, but it felt like what I was navigated to talk about was clearly the elephant in the room that wasn't being talked about. And so it was just an interesting observation that I thought, I wonder how many leaders are brave enough to have that, or maybe it's to your point,
I'm going to send you the name of that book. I'm going to find it in my email and send it to you, because her whole discussion is that it's in those little opportunities that you miss that happen 100 times that spell the end of your business.
Because you're taking the eye off the creaky door handle, you're taking you're not seeing the pieces.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's interesting, eh? Let 100 of those little moments miss.
Adds up. Waterfall. How do a CEO comes in, thinks he's awesome. Let's call him Bob.
Awesome
Bob comes
Bob.
in, flipping awesome Bob. He's like, I've got a bunch of monkeys that I just can't do shit. I know what's up. These guys don't. How do you bring self-awareness to a leader who's a flipping muppet? Do you know what I mean? Like someone that you straight away, you're like, oh, geez, you're one of these guys. How do you navigate people with power that are naive to either EQ or people or social? How do you do that? Or how do you try to navigate that?
You do get them, and they're the hardest engagement.
Yeah.
It's just an uphill battle the whole way. But in truth, I don't have the hard conversations early. In truth, what I really do is I look to the leadership team, and I look to the people in the business that I think can be champions.
Yeah.
And I go, who here has the potential to really step up and earn the respect of the team? And I try to influence them to start with.
Interesting.
So that I can build a bit of a foundation of honesty and performance and good conversations and all of those things. And I try to get it happening at that level first, because sometimes you need some evidence to show the impact. And then once some things start to work, I will then work with the CEO, Bob, and to your point before, it's through clever questioning. So it's not often that I would go in and go, I think I know what to do here, like Simon didn't with me, right?
Yep.
I will always go in and really listen and really try to understand, and then really try to figure out what is the question that hasn't been asked, because they're probably asking themselves all sorts of stuff. They're having conversations all the time. They're having those meetings that go nowhere, where they have a big chat and then nothing happens. What's not being asked? So I try really hard to find those.
So you're like, okay, basically he's going to be a stonewall.
Yeah.
He or she's going to be a stonewall. So Bob or Bobby is shit. So that's not going to work. No. So you go to the side, find a linchpin that you feel could step up to create a bit of momentum, get there, show some wins, use that data to then go back to the CEO to ask the right question to expand the horizon just a little bit to get a little door opening, and then just keep smart.
Often that old school mentality, their experience is super valuable because they've gone through 4 decades of business change, including a recession, a depression, and the year 2000 bubble, and these things that they've ridden through. You can't write off the pale male stale men in business because
Bob's got experience.
They've got so much experience, but they're not necessarily the right leader in the modern times. And so if you can develop the leadership in other people who are younger and female and diverse and all of those things, you can get better traction. So I start there, but then with that leader, once I show the evidence and the change in the culture, they usually start to come around. But
it's a slow burn.
And often, not always, but often you'll find actually they really do want to change and they do want to learn and they do want those results. They're just afraid because they don't know how to come around it.
Got it.
This decade. So often they start to feel a lot better when they start to see it happening. They go, okay, this isn't just theory or whatever. It is working. I better start to work on myself. So it comes around. You can also just go toe to toe and say, mate, you're a dick. What are you doing? But
have you done one of those?
It makes a shorter engagement. Not good for your fees.
It's like it's my mum had said like ages ago. It's like there's 2 ways of getting rid of ice. If it's in, you can smash it on the ground and it'll go into pieces, or you can just hold it there and it will slowly melt over time. And it's just like I saw that as like offense,
great
defense.
Visual. Yeah.
Because I'm very visual. That's on like chess, and it's very visual of like, do I smash the ice or do I let it melt? Like we've and sometimes as well, if you're thinking strategically, you can see and you know what's going to happen, but you've got to watch it play out, because if you force it early, they're not acceptable to it, or they don't have the buy-in the same as, and when they go through it, they can then see it and get it. So that's probably a part of it, is I'm imagining as well, you having patience strategically to get them to those points. So it's
I map it out in my head. I love negotiation. I like Donald Trump for all of his flaws. He's got some good stuff, but also the Black Swan Group.
Yes, Chris Voss.
My God,
dude,
so much good stuff. But
that dude is the shit.
Well, it's really cool if you get it in your head. If you kind of map out this timeline that you're talking about to where you think the eureka moment's going to come, and where you're at now, if you can map that out in your head and know what their current position is, what your position is, what levers you can pull in order to move that position, where you think you're going to meet resistance, where you think things might go off track. If you can see that in your head, it's really easy to go on the journey. It's really hard if you don't know where you're trying to get them to.
Well, then you're like squirrel.
Yeah. So you're just plugging holes in the boat, like left, right, and centre. So you're trying to stretch that vision out and know where you're trying to get to. For
those who don't know, Chris Voss was ex-head of FBI negotiations for hostage taking globally or something for the FBI. Is probably one of the greatest negotiators of all time. So that visualization, I call it pre-morteming.
Yes.
I love to pre-mortem.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, if this is going to die, how's it going to die? And I'll do it before I start. And then I can see, I'm like, oh yeah, energy's off there or this. And then if it does turn to shit, then I'll try to decode it to see where it actually did. But when you pre-mortem something, it's so interesting, because you can almost then see, especially with people, if it's ego or politics or power, like I'm dealing with 2 things at the moment, which I'm kind of predicting. And I've done it before. I'll be like, I think I did one maybe 2 years ago or something, or last year, and I was like, I think this person's ego is going to cause an issue here, probably down there. And then when that happens, this might happen. So you kind of funnel it through with your head. And it's funny as things kind of play out, because probably to your point before, was it time reveals all or whatever it is, flipping happened. And then you sit there, you're like, holy shit. And you saw it. It's like, no, you saw it. Yeah. So pre-morning, but I think it's a great thing to do, especially sometimes when you're, when you're 20, you're young, you're passionate, you're stubborn, you got confidence, arrogance, whatever it is, you like stuff it. You're so maniacally focused on just doing the thing, not actually seeing anything else, and that usually stuffs you up, right? But when you can, I think 30s is an interesting age, it feels, and when you've been playing the game for a bit, so that 3s and 4s to 1s and 2, I call it the squeeze. It's the squeeze of like, you're old enough that you've done enough shit, which you've built enough leverage to sit at the table, but then you're still young enough that you know what's up.
Yeah, and you've got the energy still.
Yeah. the squeeze. And at the moment I'm seeing the squeeze, and it's kind of like, it's like 36 to 42 of the 3s and 4s that have come. I'm probably at the lower end of the squeeze because most of my crew aren't doing the same type of round shit, just different worlds. But yeah, the squeeze is sort of happening. I can feel it, which is kind of exciting to see, because then I'm seeing more of my friends starting to get in positions of power and influence and stuff. And what advice would you give the new 3s and 4s that are becoming the 1s and 2s?
I think for me, arriving into the decade of the 30s, I really felt like I knew who I was. I'm less tolerant of dickheads. No desire to spend my time with people who aren't trying to do something cool. I'm just much clearer on those kind of things. And, you earn well in your 30s, you know who you are, you know what you're good at, you know what you're not good at. So you can just be a lot more sure about what you're working on. I think front-loading the issues or the challenges. So, like, people default to going, okay, yeah, that's a problem. Well, I've got all this good stuff to do, so I know that problem's there, and I'll put that over there, and I'll do this stuff, and then I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
And then another problem comes up, and you're like, okay, now I've got 2 problems, and I'm going to deal with those, and I'll deal with them then. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned in my business failure was front load the problems.
Eat the frog.
Yeah, man.
First,
just rip into that, because I could have saved myself so much hurt later if I had dealt with them earlier. And instead, we tend to go with what's comfortable, which is what's working and what we like and what we enjoy, because it makes us feel better. But that's actually not what you need to deal with. You need to deal with what's not working. So deal with that, front load it. And I think that front loading the challenges is what helps you build momentum, because you're just knocking stuff out of the way earlier, so it extrapolates, And
it's not a mental baggage of something that is still sitting there.
Oh, just weaseling at you. Yeah.
Shit, that's pretty good. Yeah. Front load it. Be brave. Have those conversations.
Hustle now, man. Like, this is your decade. Like, the 30s is your decade. This is the decade where you get to do the cool shit. And if you fail and fuck it up and go out of business, you've still got a whole nother decade to rebuild yourself. But if you're starting later, you've got way less time to do it again. And in your 20s, like, fail as much as you can. Fail as much as you can in your 20s. You learn so much good stuff. And then when you get into your 30s, you're like, cool, I know heaps of what I'm doing. Still got stuff to learn, but I know what I'm about, so have a go at it.
Solid. I said, a student or something asked me, he's like 19, 20, what do I do, blah, blah. I said, man, even if you just go nuts for 10 years and eat shit and fail the entire time, if you wake up at 30, you'll be broke probably just like everyone else. So who cares?
Yeah.
And he'd never thought of it like that. And I was like, trust me, like, you got time.
What's that? Tim Ferriss's one, live destitute, like, for a couple of days a month.
What does destitute mean?
No money, no food.
Live hood.
Like,
go hood.
Go hood, man. And so he gets in a sleeping bag, sleeps on the floor of his lounge, and eats nothing but rolled oats for like 3 days.
It's fucking weirdo, eh?
Well, that's as bad as it gets. Doesn't get worse than that.
Or takes it back to the streets, yeah.
So if you can cope with that, then what are you worried about?
Well, that's back to the thing we talked about right at the start. It's like when you're from the gutter, it's all up. And because, there's time and shit, benefit, blah, blah, whatever. But then, I remember it was a meth and I was paying $40 a week and I was renting out a bathroom and I'd put all my clothes in the bathtub and then I put the foam mattress down, close the door, no heating, just like roll up, done. But then I know, if I think back now, I'm like, man, that shit's ghetto. But then I actually kind of get quietly stoked. You can see I'm genuinely smiling because I think it's so dope. Because I'm like, when I know people have had like fancy all this shit, I was like, bro, you haven't been on the gutter shit when you're having like up and goes 3 days a week and just shit. I think it's awesome. I love it because it gets me hyped knowing, that underdog mentality of knowing it's like, make it tougher for me. Like, I'm such a flippin' idiot. I kept a broken iPhone 7 with a cracked screen for 2 years. I only just upgraded because I had this thing in my head where anytime, it sounds so stupid. Maybe it's stupid. This is my truth. My truth is I'd like to put my phone on a table with a cracked broken iPhone 7 screen and I'd look over and I'd see what phone they got. Because there'd always be better phone than me, right? But then I'd be like, well, I got to 1.7 million people spending zero using this phone. You've got a better phone than me. What's your excuse?
Yeah.
And it was a stupid game I was playing in my own head.
Yeah.
To be like, what's your excuse of why can't you create? Because people want to have excuses of why can't I do this and that. Stuff that. Like,
I'm similar, with flying. I refuse to fly first class or business class, even though I can afford it now.
really?
Yeah.
You don't flex out, turn left?
Nah, nah, man, I don't. I guess it's just where I come from, and
You can't justify it?
That's exactly it. It's the exchange of value. I've done it. I have flown first class a couple of times, and I was so underwhelmed by the difference.
You're
that
like, I just lost
like,
$8,000.
I just lost $8,000. Like, what's a nah?
That's 8 startups.
I'll be back there. I'm only 6 foot tall. I can fit in the seats just fine.
Yeah.
You know, you're a bit taller. You might have a bit more challenge.
Yeah, I try to navigate around. Nah, awesome, bro. So if people want to check your shit out, and you've got a book that you've written.
Yeah.
I think it's right behind. I think your book's here.
Yeah, you were reading it last time we caught up, I think.
It was under... Yeah, so if they want to scope out your book, where can they go? What can they do?
Grow3x.com. Just a disclaimer, that's not like the 10x journey shit that you hear everywhere.
Oh, Grant Cardone, old mate.
Yeah. I have nothing against Grant Cardone, but
he's on Mr. 10X, isn't he?
He's Mr. 10X. And I had this argument with my publisher.
Oh, really?
I didn't... We never really landed on a name for the book. Like, now that it's out, I'm like, God, I wish I'd come up with a better name. But the reason why I chose Grow 3X, because I was like, 10X is bullshit for most people in business, unless you're getting angel investment and going on that IPO journey, which in New Zealand, I think it's like 70-something% of businesses are never doing that journey. They're all privately held, small to medium-sized companies. I was like, can you be 3 times better than you were before?
Most people would say yes.
So the book is called Grow 3X. There's a website, grow3x.com.
Yep.
You can download it. You can buy the physical book. The book's in Paper Plus and Amazon and Mighty Ape and all those places.
There you go.
But I wanted to write one that would give people real, practical advice on how to sell more shit. Not sleazy stuff, but just practical stuff. And I've only had one person tell me that it was shit. Everybody else said they liked it. So the ratios are okay at the moment.
No, it's good, man. And we're talking about, it's like, text is one format of education and obviously visual and stuff. So we're going to have a pro conversation about that after this. But no, I really appreciate your time. And obviously, big shout out to the advisory crew. Simon, it's a flipping absolute champion. He'll probably be on here sometime soon telling many yarns and stories, and we're obviously pretty close to each other now in the AK vicinity, which is pretty rad because no one actually knows where the studio is, so it's we're very on stealth.
Yeah.
Because I want to hide the whiskey. I don't want it publicly known where the whiskey is. No, mega good chats. Cool. Anyone want to check anything else? Anything else we can go do?
Nah, just
advisoryworks.co.nz.
Advisory.works. So www.advisory.works.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy, simple website. But just if you just Google Logan Wedgwood, you'll usually
but there's no
find
E
me.
after the.
No, but it works for some reason. You still find me.
There you go. You've cracked the Google.
Algorithm.
Appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks, man.
Mega chats. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. This has been Soul Yarning with now new minted partner at Advisory Works, Logan Wedgwood. Kia ora, everybody. Chat.